This video is brought to you by soccerpro.com. Be sure to visit soccerpro.com for all the latest soccer gear at everyday low prices with no membership fees. Don't forget to use coupon code SR4U at checkout for $10 off a $75 purchase, plus free shipping within the US. Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you guys a comparison video between the Adidas F50 adizero miCoach in synthetic and of course the brand new Adidas F50 adizero miCoach 2 or the adizero 4, whatever you want to call it, of course in synthetic. Before I go any further, I'd just like to say to stay tuned to the end of the video to see the on-feet comparison between both of these shoes. It'll give you a better idea as to how these two fit in comparison to each other, and also give you a pretty good idea as to how these shoes actually do look on feet. And if you could leave a like on the video, it would be greatly appreciated. It only does take a second. As far as what you're getting into when you're buying an F50 adizero from Adidas, it's basically a very lightweight, barefoot feel simulation shoe. It was very, very popular when it was originally released in 2010, and it has become the shoe of Leo Messi, who is arguably the best player currently in the world. Obviously, he's paid to wear the adizero, so whether or not that has any effect as to how the shoes affect his play, I don't think it does all that much. But just keep in mind, that's probably one of the main reasons why it is so popular. It also has kind of pushed the boundaries for how lightweight a soccer shoe can actually be made. And all of the companies, ever since the adizero was released in 2010, have kind of been pushing the boundaries and making shoes lighter and lighter. And for that, the adizero has kind of started a new era as far as soccer shoes are concerned. We've always had lightweight shoes, but never this lightweight. As far as what the similarities between both of these shoes are, I'll show you exactly what is identical between the two pairs, and that is the sprint frame and sole plate. The sprint frame is a one-piece plastic heel counter and sole plate, and of course the stud pattern you get on both of these shoes is exactly the same, the triangular studs. I'm not going to go over it too much. There is a full review for this shoe up on my website. The new F50 will be up as far as the review is concerned in the next couple of weeks or so. You do of course have the miCoach slot as well. Then of course, like I said, the heel counter has those harder edges, a little bit stiffer than the original version of the sprint frame. And like I said, that portion of the shoe is exactly the same between both models. The second thing that's the same is pretty much the offset lacing system. You see the laces are somewhat offset to the outside of the shoe, so we have a slightly larger instep as far as being clean of any kind of laces. And other than that, other than just having the exact same insoles as far as the lightweight one and the comfort one, those are exactly the same as well. Everything else on the upper has changed, as well as the interior of the shoe, which I'll show you a little bit later. As far as the upper is concerned, the original adizero miCoach has the single layer sprint skin synthetic, and while it is very, very thin, it's not as thin as the new adizero. This one also is very, very clunky. A lot of people kind of overlook the synthetic model on the miCoach version of the adizero, simply because it seems to fit a little bit clunky, which you guys will see a little bit later in the on-feet portion of the video. You have this exterior sprint web area, so basically this is designed to wrap your foot a little bit more tightly. It's a more rigid section of the upper, and it does a good job. It wraps your foot at the forefoot area and keeps the kind of adds a little bit of durability to the shoe, and like I said, adds that rigidity when you're pushing off side to side, so the upper is not going to stretch on you and you're going to get as responsive of a feel as possible. The problem with that is that the rest of the shoe, these red sprint skin areas, don't really match up with the actual fit on this sprint web, so you kind of get these bulges and it doesn't fit all that well. It has, I don't want to say a sloppy fit, but it doesn't fit nearly as good as, let's say, a Nike Mercurial Vapor in terms of having that thin synthetic, barefoot, sock-like feel when it is on your foot. It has a fairly wide midfoot and a fairly wide forefoot and toe box area. There's lots of room. The toe box is fairly large on this shoe as well. And overall, the fit was not, it wasn't a poor fit, but it wasn't something that I would consider premium, especially for a shoe that you're paying this much money for. As far as the new adizero miCoach 2, they've changed pretty much the entire shape of the shoe, and for the better. It fits really, really well. This is by far the best fitting adizero that they've made to date, especially in the synthetic model, and I think that a lot of people should definitely take a look at the synthetic model as opposed to just jumping straight for the leather version, especially if you want that thin barefoot feel. You can see how much thinner the actual sprint skin is on this one. If you look at actually where the kind of the side of the laces start, there's a much thinner synthetic on this new version. It's the same sprint skin, it still has about the same texturing to it, but it's one single layer all the way around. You can see that the exterior sprint web is pretty much gone except for around the toe area, which again, it's kind of a clear coat this time, and it's going to add a little bit of durability and of course that lateral stability on the upper, so the upper moves exactly with your foot. You also have this kind of slight texturing on the upper as well, which doesn't add too much grip on the ball, but it adds this little bit of extra feel, which I think is really, really nice. You can see the patterns, kind of these straight lines and the squiggly lines, really unique and something that we haven't seen before on the Adizero. And overall, I think it works really, really well. Of course, the fit is much improved, which again, you'll see in the on-feet portion of the review. As far as what else has changed, you're going to notice that the actual interior of the shoe is a little bit different. The heel liner on the new Adizero, I've kind of took the laces out of this one, you can see is completely one piece of material. There's no extra kind of stitching in there, no risk of having rubbing issues on there. Where on the old version of the miCoach, you can see that the liner, there's a little bit of extra padding there, but the liner kind of cuts off where they have these stitched out areas, like right around here, and that all leads to potential for blistering because it could potentially lead to a rubbing spot. You're also going to have a little bit more kind of extra padding in the new version of the miCoach, and it makes for a much more comfortable feel from right out of the box. As far as the sprint web is concerned, this is the first redesign that we've seen. This is the original sprint web that we saw on the Adizero. On the actual miCoach version, it was a little bit smaller than what we saw in the previous versions of the synthetic Adizero. You can see it's the silver section here, and it's not actually like a flywire thing. It's more there just to provide some stability to the upper itself. The upper is so thin that it needs this extra material on the inside to prevent it from ripping. And of course, when you're pushing off side to side, you don't want the upper to stretch on you. That's what this is designed to do. So you have that on the inside and the outside of the shoe. And then of course in the toe box area, I'm not sure how great you guys can see that. You can't because it's all black. You have the sprint web on here, which again is fairly thin, and I have to say that this upper doesn't feel all that responsive when you're pushing off side to side. It has some stretch to it. Whereas the new Adizero has this much more significant sprint web. It wraps the entire upper here. There's much more of it, and it goes right to the bottom of the shoe. So the upper has pretty much no stretch to it when you're pushing off side to side. And you can see that the toe box forefoot area has a full layer of sprint skin all the way around as well. It's not sprint skin, sorry, sprint web. And that provides lots and lots of stability when you're pushing off side to side. The upper moves exactly the second that your foot moves, which is very, very important in providing that nice responsive feel. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much exactly what has changed, and we'll move on to the weight portion of this comparison. Alright, obviously if you're going for an Adizero, you're looking for something that's going to be as lightweight as possible, and the Adizero, like I said earlier, is some of the lighter shoes on the market. Both of these shoes have a listed weight of 5.8 ounces, which is extremely light, and they're both the exact same size, 9 US. So I'll throw them each on the scale. Like I said, the listed weight is 5.8 ounces, and of course these are both used pairs as well. So I'll throw it on the scale and you guys can see what it weighs in real time. And this one weighs in at 5.95 ounces, so slightly above the listed weight, but not by much. Then I'll throw the new Adizero miCoach 2 on the scale, and that weighs in at exactly 5.8 ounces. So the difference between these two is 0.15 ounces, which is pretty much nothing. It's something that you can't notice. It's actually impossible for you to notice. It's actually less than the weight of the actual laces themselves, if that's any indication as to how little the weight difference is between both of these shoes. So obviously if you're buying either of these two shoes, they're both going to be very, very lightweight, and you're not going to notice a difference in terms of feel on the foot as far as weight is concerned. Obviously this one fits a little bit tighter than this one does, and you'll see that next in the on-feet portion of the comparison. Alright, I'm not too sure how this is going to show up on the camera, but hopefully you guys can see the differences in the fit between the new Adizero and the old one. The new one, as you guys can see, fits really nice and tight. You can look at the sides of the lacing here and how they're a little bit further apart on the new Adizero in comparison to the old one, and that just shows how much narrower the actual cut of the shoe is. So if you do have a little bit wider foot, the new Adizero synthetic may not be a good choice for you. As far as the actual physical fit of the shoe, just standing still, you can see there's a little bit of a bulge in the synthetic here right on the inside forefoot area of the shoe. And it's not a big deal, it's not a big bulge, and it's not something that you're going to notice when playing, but it's just the one imperfection that I can find in the fit on the new Adizero. Whereas on the older version, you can see that you have this exterior sprint web area right again at the forefoot on the inside and the outside, and that hugs your foot really, really nice and tight. But you can see where it changes back to the regular sprint skin. You have a little bit of a bulge here at the forefoot, and you have a fairly large bulge here in the midfoot area, and that happens on both the inside and the outside of the shoe, and that just makes for some imperfections in the upper and some issues with the fit. You have this really nice and snug area right here in the forefoot, but the rest of the shoe through the midfoot and the toe box is a little bit too big. You can see, you can't really see it, but there's a lot of extra material here on the top of the forefoot. It's not actually touching my foot at all, whereas on the new Adizero, it's right against my foot, nice and close. Like I said, fits like a sock as opposed to this older version, which doesn't really have that. You can really get a good idea of that when you do kind of like a flex test and see how much the upper actually creases. It creases a little bit on the new Adizero, but that's pretty much what you would expect from a really thin synthetic that fits really well. Whereas on the old Adizero, you can see how much it actually creases, and you get this really huge bulge of material here in the forefoot, which is not something that you would want from a shoe that especially costs $200. You're paying for high-end quality, and to me, that's not really a great fit. As far as the heel of the fit is concerned, it still has that same exact cut. We have a little bit better liner and slightly more padding than the new version of the Adizero, and because of that, your heel is locked in place a little bit better. Whereas the old one, like I said, has the same cut, but the material is a little bit different, and the liner is a little bit different as well. There's kind of more potential to get a blister simply because the liner is cut a little bit differently, as I showed you guys earlier. Other than that, guys, this is the old version of the Adizero now, and as far as aesthetics are concerned and how the shoes actually look, I just think that this old version of the Adizero is really ugly. I don't know about you guys, let me know in the comments what you think, but I think the new version of the Adizero really does look sharp, especially in this yellow and black colorway, especially in person. If you haven't seen it in person yet, the first chance you do, or go ahead and check out the high quality pictures on my website. These are some really good looking shoes. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could leave a like, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you would like more info on either of these two shoes, such as the full written review, high quality pictures, as well as buy it now links for the best prices online, including some SR4U coupon codes, there will be a link in the description to my website, soccerreviewsforyou.com, or directly to the review pages. Again, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.